What is up, guys? Clay Enjoyer here, and it is time to enjoy. And in this video, I made MF Doom the rapper. Some of you may be wondering, where did I come up with this idea? So, I'll tell you. In my chemistry class, I was drawing a picture of a space marine, and one of my classmates thought it was really cool, and they asked if I could draw MF Doom. But I said that I could do that, but I could also make a sculpture of MF Doom. So that's basically how this video came to be. And on an even better note, I'm actually selling this sculpture to them, so that's a win, I guess. To make this sculpture look at least slightly human, I can build up the aluminum wire and cover it up to make this look less like a skinny robot and more like an actual person. Well, not at the moment, but it's at least going in the right direction. And then I can add on some shoulder slash biceps to build up the arms and make them a little bit thicker in proportion to the rest of the body. Then now I can blend in some more clay to act as some shoulders and to make the shoulders look more defined instead of like smooth with the arms. With all the images and reference pictures I looked up of MF Doom, he sort of seems to resemble a dad bod, where he has a bit of a belly, but overall it's not too obnoxious, because then I can blend in some extra clay on the legs to make them a little bit more proportional, as I've been saying about 17 times throughout this entire video. It's all about proportion. With some blobs of clay attached to the bottoms of his legs, which will be his eventual shoes, then I can start the numerous task of building up plenty and plenty of worms of clay to act as plenty of wrinkles on his shirt and his pants eventually. Starting with his undershirt, that's why they're in such a weird pattern, and now they can get layered all over the pants in a somewhat realistic fashion, even though I don't wear pants, I only wear shorts, so bear with me, I guess. It'll look decent in the end. Now I get to do the mind-numbing task of blending in all of these worms of clay to make them look like realistic clothing folds. But how I edited this video, you'll only have to suffer through about another 3 more seconds. Now I can start layering up the shirt with another sheet of clay. After all, this isn't a tank top, so in the front and on the arms, I can add some extra layers of clay to build up the arms and make them look, guess what? Guess what? More proportional. I know. I'm probably going to say that word about another 3 times throughout this video, and you guys are going to suffer through it together. Then I can add the pant seams to make this look realistic. After all, I am selling this to someone, so I want to make it look like I at least put some effort in my videos. Then I can blend a tiny bit of clay back up into the hoodie because I wanted to make it look like it's hanging down in a roughly realistic way instead of just like sticking to his body, because that looks a little goofy. Now, since this jacket is also a piece of clothing, I gotta give it a bunch of wrinkles, and now begins the other incredibly stressful, time-consuming, boring task of blending in all these extra worms of clay, which for some reason I take more time in videoing the process, starting with this metal tool before doing the same thing around different parts of the body. With the base level of blending in already done, I can start working on something else and do the rest of the refining off camera, which is a little bit easier to do when there's a camera not in your face. And then to make the zipper for his hoodie, I can take that same tool and carefully make 20 billion lines down the jacket to act as roughly even zipper teeth, I guess. Then I can make them a tiny bit smoother instead of so bumpy, I guess, which is barely noticeable now that I look at this video while editing, but that's okay because I can work on making the head with this aluminum foil blob. Last time I checked, aluminum foil isn't really good for sculpting, so I can cover it up with a humanoid blob of clay before then carving in the details like eyebrows, eyeballs, and eyeball holes, which then can be filled in well with eyeballs, and then they can get their own eyelids that look a touch bit puffy, but I never claimed to be good at sculpting heads, only adequate at best. Because I'm still trying my best, but all my time these few weeks have been taken up studying for government because I'm really trying not to fail. And now that I was just going to add his nose on the mask, and now that I look at it, I really hate how noseless humans look, and I wish I could unsee that. And another thing that I also really struggle with is making ears that actually look like ears, which is what I was struggling here to do, but I figured it's at least ear-esque, so at least you can understand what I was trying to make, but the ears will be barely noticeable at all, especially the hair as well, which at this point I could have just made Mr. Doom bald and people probably wouldn't have even been able to tell because the eventual hood will cover up his head. Then I can blend said head into the neck and start by building up this mask, which kind of looks like a face hugger. Then I can build the rest off camera because it was so troublesome. And then I can stick it on to prove that the mask actually fits, not like I planned that or anything. I know, shocking. And to hold up Mr. Doom's mask, I made a little strap that goes around his head to hold up the mask, even though this is another detail that no one will be able to see, that which is going to be covered by the hood in about 3 seconds. And even though the hood is a nice detail, I kinda wish the hood was down because painting around this thing was really annoying, and I think it would have been a bit better because I could have made some more details in his face, but I don't know. I'm just a sculptor, I'm not the one paying for it. But I can blend in some worms of clay to make the hoodie look a little bit more realistic. Completely unintentionally, I forgot to make his shoes, but I'm emphasizing that I will add some detail later in terms of painting. And now I can move on to the last part of the sculpture, the hands, which at this point are more like blocky Minecraft Steve fists, but again, I don't even know why I'm sculpting. This is another thing that I'm bad at. Man, I really should like practice or something, but practicing is for nerds. Now, with the final detail of Dr. Doom's ensemble completed, I can now finally start to paint, and I know I do see that he already lost his hand. I don't know how or why, but I just glued it back on in the next clip, so I can start by painting his pants gray, his undershirt white, and his hoodie a nice green. After about 15 coats of green, it is finally looking good, and then I can start by adding some details to the hoodie and the pants with a lighter and lighter gray and green, which can be dry brushed on the model to make it look a little bit extra detailed and to bring out the textures, because I can't completely leave out all my fingerprints and just mistakes, which are even highlighted by this dry brushing, but it's all in the name of detail. Then I can paint the zipper a light gray to make it look not white, because last time I checked, zippers aren't white. Then I can do another light gray dry brushing on that to bring out some detail, before then painting the shoes with a base coat of white. I understand the shoes are white already, but it's more of a clay white. Now I can paint the Nike shoes and symbol, but comment which one looks the worst. Personally, I think they're all terrible. Now I can start moving on to painting the hands, which are, well, color appropriate. With that same brown on my brush, I can paint Mr. Doom's head, being very careful to not get the hoodie or too much of the mask. And then I can paint his eyes off camera because I wanted them to actually look good, so I did it off camera because they were so small and I would definitely mess that up. Now, with a microphone painted, I can finally paint MF Doom's mask. Originally, I was going to use a chrome, but it turns out I ran out. And you know why I ran out? It's because I was making another project on my second channel. I'll put a link or something, so if you want to check it out, you can. Now, I can finally start making the base, which, of course, is clay and foam. But I'm not a magician, so I can't just magically create a base out of nothing. So I gotta start in simple steps with these pieces of clay that look like gum attached to this foam square. Now, because of my absolutely clever measurements, I didn't cut the strips long enough, so I had to use these little dowels of wood cut to size along with this sheet of foam to cover up the hideous foam. So I can then make a second one to act as a second tiered cake. Then I can glue it together carefully, totally not melting the clay and giving myself lung cancer. And then with these holes that I poked in, that's where the feet will go. So I can make the sculpture and paint it too. Now this two-tiered cake gets a base layer of black, being so careful not to get the black on the glow-in-the-dark clay bits. Remember how I said careful? Well, that was a complete lie. So I actually had to go back in with a bunch of isopropyl alcohol to quote-unquote carefully rub away the paint and try and make the glow-in-the-dark sheets look unblemished, even though my painting skills are pretty bad, so there's still some variation, which is a little bit frustrating, but whatever, it could be worse. Now, test fitting my sculpture, it is time for the reveal. For the person that suggested I make this sculpture for them, thank you. This was a very fun build to build, and I would be glad to make more sculptures that my classmates suggest/pay me for. But that's okay if they don't, because you guys can still enjoy these nice glowing glamour shots too. And I may or may not start a Patreon at 4 or maybe if I'm desperate enough 300 subscribers. But anyways, see you next time in the next video. Bye.